Can you tell me a little bit about Red in the picture that you're holding right now?
Well, Red is my father, Roland Lowery. He went by the nickname of Red all his life to everybody except me and my sister, of course. He was Dad to us. But he had, well, little background on him. He had grown up, at least part of his life, in Mount Washington. In later years, when he got married to my mother, they found a place in Mount Washington, lived here most all of their lives. The house that I grew up in on Lockard, he and my grandfather, his father, had built. It was a Sears house, and it came in two big deliveries, and they built the house. I'm sure he had some help, but at that time when they built it, it was built for sale to earn money as a contractor. But then later, after we had spent a year in Pittsburgh, we came back and Mom and Dad were looking for a house to buy, and this was on the market, so they bought it, and that's where I lived for a number of years, all through grade school and high school and college, in that house until I got married, until we bought a house on Beechcrest. But Dad had worked for the post office most of his life. People have said that I resemble him, and that became so clear to me one day when I was in college and working at Christmas break, working at the post office as a temporary. I was walking down a hall and I heard some fellas say, "Oh, you better get back to work, here comes Red," and because they thought it was my father who was a supervisor. And then another fella looked around the corner and he said, "Oh no, it's just Little Red." But it was enough to try and keep them busy for a little while. But Dad, when we started talking about the centennial and the ideas that we had, he got all enthused, and he was interested in older things. His grandfather had been in the Civil War. After Dad retired from the post office, he got interested in and involved in an organization called the North-South Sharpshooters Association. A group of guys, mostly guys, their wives got involved too eventually, but they formed units that were using the designations of Civil War units, and they shot black powder muskets, replicas of Civil War muskets, in competition to win prizes. The prizes were medals. I mean, no money prizes, but just for the excitement and the fun of doing it, the competition. He was involved in that for a number of years, shooting these black powder muskets. They would travel around there were different sites where they had ranges, different clubs had ranges, over in Indiana, up in northern Ohio, at Dearborn Village, Greenfield Village in Dearborn. And for a number of years they traveled around. They had a recreational vehicle that they would go and camp in during these weekend shoots, about 8-9 times a year, I guess. And he and Mom had a great time doing that.
And he was a researcher for the historical.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So the reason, tell me a little bit about why we have this picture sitting here. How does it relate to the centennial?
There was a lady whose name I don't remember, who did some portraits of Mount Washington people who had some cachet, so to speak. My father was one of them because he had been involved in the different organizations. Way back when I was young, he was president of the Civic Club. When I got older and out on my own, I became president of the Civic Club. So we had a history in the community. So this lady did portraits of several of the people in the community. My father was one. Jim O'Toole, the former pitcher of the Reds, was one. And Sandy reminds me that those portraits are maybe up at in Anderson Township where the Historical Society meets. I haven't seen them, but the full size, the original was a full size portrait that the artist wanted, I think $1,200 for.
Which was a lot back then.
That was a lot of money. So we got this miniature, of which I'm very proud. I'm glad we've got it.